The last 2 weeks, I missed two important appointments. The first one was spiritual direction. My appointment was at 10, and then at 10 o'clock, I realized that, I supposed to have this appointment. And then just last week, Wednesday, I was supposed to go to Mater Dei High School to hear confession. And then suddenly I received a phone call from the priest. "Where are you?" He said. Why did I miss these two appointments? Actually, I got up early, I went to the office, and it's too early. So I said, meanwhile, I was waiting, maybe I could do something, That's what got me into trouble. So when I started to make on a project, to do a project, I forgot the time, both. Appointment that I missed is because while I was waiting, I did something else, So, have you tried Uber or Lyft, So while you are waiting for them, what are you going to do? While you are waiting for your driver, usually is your husband, okay, that come, what are you going to do, So many times while we were waiting, we got distracted. So same thing, Advent season is a season of waiting, waiting for the Lord to come, the first coming of Christ. And many times while we were waiting, what do? Well, in the commercial world, they ask you to go shopping, So while waiting for Christmas, we go shopping. But sometimes we overdo it, is that right? That shop, and then we forgot. And all you look is the price. What's the price? And while you are looking to comparing price, think about what's the price of being Christian, What's the price of salvation? We cannot separate the world outside and the world inside, our spiritual world and our daily activity world. It's all together. We cannot divide ourselves into two. Sometimes we do that, and sometimes we become spiritual. It has to be, there's an integrity so that you will not be divided. It's a very sad thing when a person is divided into two or even three or four. So how are we going to prepare this Advent to receive the birth of Christ's coming? First of all, we have to be spiritual, to listen to the readings, to come to participate in all the activities in the church. So just to remind us what's going on. This is a new beginning because today is the first day of the liturgical year, year C. Last year, year B. And mainly all the gospel is from Luke, year C. Year A is Matthew, year B, last year is Mark, and year C is Luke. So, how are we going to prepare ourselves to receive Christ? Besides in engaging in all these activities, but is to integrate our life together. There's no division. When you go out from the church to the world, shopping, you are the same person. So we have to carry this value of the gospel out to the world. Don't let the value of the world enter into your spiritual life. Then you will be divided. Jesus talked about the sun, the moon, the star falling. Well, he is reminding us that this is the important time. Actually, if the Lord comes, we don't need the sun, we don't need the moon, we don't need the star. Let them fall, because God Himself is the light. I remember when I was in the monastery, there was a monk, he stuttered. Okay, so, and then we take turns to do the reading in the monastery. So when it comes to do the reading, one time it's really out of hand. He's stuttering. He couldn't control it, so he couldn't continue. So what did he do? He slapped himself, and then he woke up. So, same thing. Jesus gave us this gospel. It's just like slapping us. Hey, wake up, don't be in a trance. Wake up and listen. That's why he gave us this message, the sun, the moon, the star falling, to wake us up. What's going on when all this phenomenon happen, that God is coming. So let us continue to this new beginning, to redirect, reorient our life into this spiritual atmosphere, so that in this Advent season, the beginning of Advent, we also have a new beginning of our spiritual life, and we look forward to the first coming of Christ. We are in between the first coming and the second coming. Well, the birth of Christ came already. Why there's a second coming is because God created us out of love. What's that mean? God created us out of love. Love is always sharing. Can you give me an example of love that is not shared? I remember before I became a priest, my neighbor, when he swept the floor, he always swept the street in front of our house, That's a sharing of love. Can you give an example of love that is not shared? There's no such thing. Love is always shared. That's why God created us out of love, because He is love. So love has to be shared. How is He going to do that? That's why He created us, to share. And so this season, this first coming of Christ, is to share our love and to understand more about the love of Christ that St. Paul talked about, abound by love. And the first reading, Jeremiah was the prophet who helped David to establish the kingdom of David, but it failed. After David, Solomon, and then Israel almost gone. So that's why it failed. God sent Jesus to prepare us for another kingdom, the kingdom of heaven. So let us continue at this Advent season, the first Sunday of Advent, to get into our lives, to direct our lives back to Christ and prepare ourselves to receive, to memorize His first coming.